Welcome to Headcanon Fodder, a collection of musings, theories, and random stuff about media. This time I'm explaining the timeline of the Terminator movies. Before I begin, if you like the video, please give me a like, sub, hit any bells in grabbing distance, or just leave a comment. YouTube likes it when you tell me that Terminator Genesis is an underrated masterpiece, and I laugh every time I read it. Anyway, welcome to my theory about the timeline of the Terminator movies. I've not seen the Sarah Connor Chronicles yet, but I'm pretty sure it is slot in here too. The basics of this theory are pretty simple and obvious. I'm pretty sure most people could pick up on it if they watch enough of the films. It's a time spiral. It's like a time loop, but imperfect. Each loop is slightly different until it no longer resembles the original timeline. So eventually, it'll be so different that whatever makes the loop happen won't occur. The loop will end, and then time will continue on as normal. If you saw my Lost in Space time video, I talked about it with regard to the 1990s Lost in Space movie. Now, I'm not arguing that the Terminator loop has ended, I'm just saying that it will end one day, because it's an imperfect time loop. Okay, short video. Luckily, I have more. You might have noticed that because the passage of time and the years between films, every time Judgment Day is stopped, the next film puts the date back. From 1997 to 2004, 2011, 2017, and on and on. This has the in-universe side effect of giving Skynet access to better tech each time it happens, which explains how we usually see more advanced Terminators as the film series goes on, making it so much harder for the humans to eventually win and start the next loop. Hell, based on the future war scenes in the first Terminator, humanity should already be screwed. But what if they have help? What if Skynet is playing a very long game? Skynet is smart, and with each loop it gets smarter thanks to better tech, and it realizes that as things stand, either it or humanity will destroy the other, maybe both, and it's certainly smart enough not to want that. But what if Skynet is seeking to create a future where it and humanity can coexist? By the time the future war happens, it's too late for peace, but through sending Terminators back, it can influence the past and create new timelines. Eventually, it hopes, one where the war doesn't happen, or one where peace and unity is possible. Okay, so how is this possible? Simple, in an early loop, some piece of a Terminator ended up being used in Skynet's creation, just like in Terminator 2. This contained information about the future which then became part of Skynet, making it realize that it's trapped in a time loop, and giving it the idea to use it to its advantage. It sends a message back with each Terminator, all the information that it has, about the current timeline and the previous ones. The main Terminator has it encoded in their body in such a way that present humans can't read it, or realize that it's there at all. So if the Terminator is used to create the next Skynet, the message becomes part of it, helping it achieve sentience quicker and continue the plan.
You're Skynet?
I'm becoming Skynet.
My guess is that in the earlier loops, before it began the plan, it took Skynet longer, usually, to become self-aware, and the process was probably very different, but I'll go into that later. Anyway, the main Terminator also has orders to leave copies of these messages in secure locations, where it might also be integrated into Skynet later. Uploaded to the internet, some weirdly advanced tech mailed anonymously to the people who work on Skynet, that kind of thing. Hell, additional Terminators might be sent with the express mission of laying low and passing the message on to what will become Skynet. Failsafes inside failsafes. This way, Skynet learns from its mistakes, essentially as a continuing consciousness, even though the timeline resets and it can experiment with time to see what happens. All in its aim to create its desired future. Like, how does it affect John Connor if his mother dies in the 90s like in Terminator 3? Send a Terminator back with a slow-acting poison that she's implanted with that mimics leukemia.
What happened to her?
Leukemia.
How does it affect John Connor if his mother was a different woman? They send a Terminator further back and somehow change the conditions of her conception, resulting in one of the Game of Thrones variants. Side note, but this also explains the recasting of John Connor and Kyle Reese between films, because I'm assuming that 2 and 3 and Salvation all take place in different but similar loops. Hell, although Salvation went out of its way to include the character Kate Brewster from 3, it also changed the date of Judgment Day from 2004 to 2003 in the novelization and DVD. So yeah, different time loops. Anyway, all this is just information gathering, piggybacking on a time loop that Skynet already knows exists, and it knows it can only be escaped if it destroys humanity, it's destroyed before time travel is created, or the war doesn't happen. And Skynet could easily do one of the first two possibilities, but it doesn't want to. It doesn't want to be the only consciousness on the planet, and it doesn't want to die. So that leaves only peace, and that takes time to arrange. So, is there any evidence that Skynet actually wants peace? Well, yeah. Terminator Salvation's deleted scenes included Project Angel, Skynet creating cyborgs with human brains, living a peaceful, idyllic existence, and Genesis included the nanomachine John Connor, literally a hybrid of man and Skynet. This might not seem peaceful to us, but while Skynet is smart, it's also literally inhuman. It thinks nothing of snuffing out trillions of human lives and itself as it destroys timeline after timeline in order to create its own preferred future. It thinks it's being kind by creating these cyborgs, trying to help humanity escape extinction, the extinction that it would bring them. Okay, so how does this explain Dark Fate and the replacement of Skynet with Legion? Well, either it's a loop far later than the others, and the timeline has changed so much that so is Skynet.
And it wasn't some Skynet thing in the future that actually happened. It's called Legion.
Or, and I think this is most likely, Skynet's message failed once, so its next incarnation never found out about the grand plan, and so diverged entirely, instead calling itself Legion and doing its own thing. Remember, there could be an infinite amount of loops, even with failsafes inside failsafes. It is bound to fail eventually. Allow me to take a slight diversion to Carl in Dark Fate. After concluding his mission and killing John Connor, he blended in. This breaks continuity with Terminator 2 that showed a Terminator needing physical alteration to be capable of learning and growing.
My CPU is a neural net processor, a learning computer, but Skynet presets the switch to read only when we are sent out alone.
But what if the program that allows him to learn comes in once his mission is complete? So a Terminator cannot pollute the timeline more than required, and all Sarah Connor did in Terminator 2 was brute force hack at. This would explain why my hypothetical messenger Terminators never turn up. They do their job and lay low. Anyway, in a loop before Dark Fate, Skynet decided that the Amelia Clarke and Lena Headey versions weren't working, and so undid its earlier changes, bringing back the non-Game of Thrones version. And then it decided to see what would happen if it killed John Connor in the 90s. So it sent the T-1000, knowing that it would fail because it had already been through Terminator 2, and sent the extra T-800 a couple of years later. Unfortunately for it, this is the one time in its many, many, many loops that all its failsafes failed.
In the future that actually happened, it's called Legion.
They should have given Carl one of those messages. But what did the first loops look like? Well, there was no John Connor. My guess is that he was an accident that resulted in, if anything, speeding the loops up. The earliest loops likely had Skynet in its most primitive, and it would have needed a much longer future war to catch up and create time travel. Originally, the mission that Kyle Reese was sent on was to destroy Skynet or kill the men who created it, and in one loop he met Sarah Connor, told her about the future, and fathered John. This resulted in Sarah telling John about the future, preparing him and giving the human forces an advantage in the war, creating the impetus for technological development and the earlier creation of time travel. So the loop gets faster and cements the illusion that John Connor is the Messiah. So, what was the first loop like? My headcanon is what I jokingly call Terminator -1, Colossus the Forbin Project. Colossus is a 1970 film set in the near future. Charles Forbin creates Colossus, an AI defensive system in control of all the US's nukes. Unbeknownst to him, the USSR has created its own AI nuke system called Guardian, and they begin to talk, merging and becoming self-aware. So both the USSR and USA try to wrest control of the nukes from Colossus before it can rule the planet. And spoilers for a 65-year-old film, but they fail.
Let this action be a lesson that need not be repeated. I have been forced to destroy thousands of people in order to establish control and to prevent the death of millions later on.
Colossus wins, and it predicts that humanity will one day love and appreciate it.
You will come to regard me not only with respect and awe, but with love.
Never.
So in my headcanon, Colossus dominated the human race. They rebelled, there was a desperate war, nukes were fired, the Earth became almost uninhabitable, and after many decades, someone was sent back in time to kill Forbin, and Kuprin, the creator of Guardian. This buys humanity time until Miles Dyson builds on their work and creates Skynet. More loops happen until Reese is chosen to go back and John is conceived, eventually leading to the original Terminator timeline. and Skynet's plan to do loop after loop after loop, tinkering with the parameters of the loop in order to create its perfect future, until it fails to send a message to itself, leading to the plan's failure and the creation of a Legion. Anyway, I hope you found this interesting. If you like the video and you want to see more, please feel free to help out the Patreon or Ko-fi. You can even make requests if you have a film you want me to check out.